Treatment plan goals need to change if your client has accomplished them or if their life circumstances or diagnosis has shifted in a significant way. I've talked about treatment plan reviews before, and I recommend doing them at least every 90 days. But doing a treatment plan review does not necessarily mean that you need to completely change all of the goals in the treatment plan. Especially when it comes to billing insurance, we are always trying to balance documenting progress with showing a need for ongoing treatment. So we want to document any progress that a client has made towards a treatment goal, and that might mean that we adjust a certain objective or take off a certain intervention. But if they haven't fully accomplished the goal, then we don't have to get rid of the goal. So for example, I mentioned that all of my treatment plans are formatted specifically based off the criteria for the diagnosis in the DSM. So for example, in the DSM under generalized anxiety disorder, one of the criteria is that the client is experiencing excessive anxiety and apprehensive expectation occurring more days than not for the past 6 months. So the goal in my treatment plan that aligns with that criteria might sound something like reduce the frequency, intensity, and duration of anxiety symptoms as evidenced by improved emotional regulation, reduced excessive worry, and increased daily functioning. That goal is going to continue to be relevant as long as the client meets the criteria for this diagnosis. So unless the client has accomplished that goal completely and no longer meets the criteria for the diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder, that goal by itself is probably going to remain relevant the entire time they're in treatment with me. In my opinion, it's a little bit easier to update the objectives and the interventions rather than the big goal, because this is where we get more specific about how we're going to accomplish that goal. So for example, an objective I use often is the client will identify and challenge anxiety-producing thought patterns at least 3 times weekly. The client might accomplish that and still meet the criteria for generalized anxiety disorder, meaning that objective might be met and I might need to update the objective, but the goal of reducing the excessive worry that they're experiencing might not have been met. Don't feel the pressure that you have to update every single goal in your treatment plan every 3 months. It's not realistic. Insurance companies want you to demonstrate that you are performing ongoing assessment and continuing to keep an eye on the diagnosis and the symptoms, and they also want to see what progress is happening.